What's up, everybody? Oh boy, here we come. Here we go. How's the microphone doing? You guys hear me okay? What's up, Maxie? Nice. Good, yeah, because last one, not so much. Maxie, what's your favorite bedtime story? What's up, CDLJ27? The fam. Like that's I feel like that should be the name of like a radio station from the early 2000s. Welcome back to CDLJ27, the fam. Beer, 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 beer. Yeah, that's how I feel. Ooh. Indeed. All right, I guess we can get started here. Well, when I'm in Poland, I had been doing them at 4 p.m. I'd been doing them like right at market close, so we could get EU crowd and we could get Eastern crowd easy enough, EST crowd easy enough. But then, of course, being in Thailand, I started doing them different times. I did a couple at 8:30 p.m. and then that wasn't great. So did 10 last week worked because it said we had like 600 people in the stream. I don't know if that's right, but that's what it said. So 10 p.m. last week seemed to work. Okay, 10 p.m. Eastern time. I won't do them at 10 p.m. Eastern time when I get back to the U.S. So I'm going to the U.S. Monday. So next week I'll be back Eastern time for a couple weeks, and then we'll figure out what time to do a stream. I guess maybe I'll put them back at 4. I guess I'll put them back at 4. Maybe a little later, 5, 6. Maybe I'll put up a poll. Figure it out. Yeah. So how'd we do this week, crowd? In terms of looking at charts. We love to look at the charts, right? Everybody loves charts. So can't post comments. So. Yeah. Maxie, where are you? Are you part of the EU crowd? Österreich! Servus. Ich wohnte 7 Wochen in Wien. Und da habe ich Deutsch gelernt. Mm. Oh, cool. Ooh, Jordan Eskenazi. Cool, man. Dude, 400% EPS beat would be tight. Do we have estimates on the EPS yet? Do we have a consensus estimate? Unusual Whales should have something like that, right? Like in the information center. Yeah, I was super close, dude. I was super close. It would have been, I think I mentioned, it would have been in Innsbruck. Would have been very cool. Would have been very cool. Maybe in the future, never know, right? But the guy who did get the job is like me and one other guy. The guy who did get the job, like, should be a professor at this point. Like, I don't even know why he was in the running. Well, I do know why he was in the running for a postdoc. He was in the running for a postdoc because the academic job market is crazy. There aren't enough professor positions for people. And so you have wildly talented researchers like that guy with 10 years of experience and 50 publications and like rare finds of lost manuscripts who aren't tenured professors at universities, which is ridiculous. Like me, I get it. I just finished my dissertation. Like, if you got that guy, like, hire that guy, you know? But yeah, let's hop over into Unusual Whales Center. Maybe we can get an eye here on. Let's see. Oh, I got this new feature I want to check out, but Periscope. Can we do calendars, earnings? Yeah. Unusual Whales like keeps adding things. Apparently, there's a Trump tracker too. Did y'all know this? On Unusual Whales, there's a Trump tracker. You can just like track his tweets. All right, we gotta go. Oh, we don't have it yet. I guess we only have it like a month out. List view. Sort by date. Oh wow, so many. We do. Aha, here we go. We should be able to do this. GME. Here we go. Do we know? What's this? Anybody use this feature here before? I wish it like. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Our EPS estimate. Finally found it. EPS estimate, guys, is 9 cents per share. So our boy Jordan here's got 400% EPS beat. What would that be? That'd be like 45 cents per share. That'd be awesome. What would that be? What'd they have to do? Outstanding is like 420 million, 440 something million at this point. Yeah, 440 something. So 446, I think, times 45. Yeah, they'd have to get, in terms of profit, 200 million. 400% EPS beat might be tough. I'm kind of in the 150 million camp. I'd love to see 200 million. 200 mil would be tight, dude. And I hope you're right. I hope you're right. That'd be cool. I'd also love to see price floor moving up to 28. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll spend some time today looking at like some of this cycle stuff. Trying to make some sense of this. I saw a really great post, actually not on Super Stunk, over on GME. So let's bring that up for a bit. What's up, Kurt? Kurt's in the house. Yeah, man, I'm working on it. I actually did look into this, by the way, and for me to be monetized on YouTube, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, YouTube does not want me to have a does not want to monetize my account as a personal account. They want me to like incorporate as a business. So they won't monetize me unless I file like business tax forms. So in order to do that, I have to go to my home state, and I have to, which I will be in shortly, but I have to like file an application for like LLC or like incorporation or something like that. And then they can monetize me, but they won't monetize me before then. So, yeah, which is fine if you live in the country. Like, if you live full time in the US, like it's fine. But the only problem with if you try to do it outside of the US when you're not like actually physically there is all of the things you have to submit have to go through. Like, you can do it digitally, but you have to do through .gov websites, and there's like firewalls and preventions and whatever, and you can't like access .gov websites outside of the US. So I couldn't do that. I have to ask you about that. S corp versus LLC. I mean, I have all these data expenses to write off and stuff. I was able to do that. I was able to write them off for, because like I have a lot of like little like I do self-employment stuff as like an educator. So some of my expenses, like for some subscriptions, I can already write off under like the self-employment exemption, expenses for self-employment. But I don't know. It depends how much this is going to scale. Like, I think Richard's channel is like 30,000 now, and I think even with having a 30,000 person channel, he clears like $10 or $11,000 per year from that. So that's, I mean, he donates all of it, which I don't know whether the implications there, but yeah. So what do you got going on here, Guido? GME CTB. I don't know what CTB stands for. Or cost to borrow. Cost to borrow. Let's see. Yeah, I see it's up a little bit. Also, y'all see this? Oh, I'll make it bigger. Hold up. If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. Ring on it. Ring on it. Ring on it. Let's make this a little bigger so y'all can see. Oh, that's a little close. Can y'all see my cursor? Some people said they couldn't see my cursor. Can you see my cursor? That's what we want to see, folks. Yeah, so it was blacked out. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so y'all see that? That means that GME shares available to borrow down to 1.7 million. So what is going on? What is going on with the shares? This is our tell, I think. This is our tell. Okay. So this cycle has been weird, I would say. This particular environment we've been in. Because we are in these bear market conditions. I mean, okay, not officially a bear market, whatever, but we're in a very sizable correction, and what I think will end up playing out into bear market conditions, specifically because of what we're seeing on the momentum indicators. I talked a little bit about this earlier in my video today. So one of the reasons, and I think I may have mentioned this a bit last week, one of the reasons why in a bull market we don't see we don't see ETF shorting, we don't see institutions go through the ETF shorting route, is because ETFs are increasing in price, right? If the market is going up, then broader market correlated ETFs are also increasing in price. So if you're opening a short position on an ETF and the market is going up, then your short position in terms of how it's showing on your books is going to be underwater, right? It's going to show a negative. That's going to have a poor effect on your liquidity and the margin balance of your portfolio. So that's not slam dunk. That's not the main path, perhaps. As I conceptualize this, that's not the main path you want to go through. Under those circumstances, if you're trying to control the price, maybe going through direct shorting is better, right? It's okay directly on the tape. Yes, you don't have maximum liquidity, but you're not exposing yourself to a position where other institutions are sort of buying against the grain, right? Okay. So with GameStop, is this a different person every time? Like, there's always somebody who comes up with this stuff. What's up? Unburdened croissant sympathy. We'll get back to that. So with what's going on right now, right, with this particular GameStop cycle and attempts to control the price, right, we haven't seen actually, from the looks of it, as much direct shorting. Or we did, I would say, if we go over to our chart, let's bounce over here. Let's bump down to 4 hour. Zoom in a bit here. Just this. Okay. So probably some direct shorting in here. In fact, I remember something like that happening. What was really interesting is if I looked at shares to borrow, right? Like all throughout here, we would see this, like, okay, in September, October, whenever like institutions were getting ready to short, like we would see the shares go down and then we would ka-chunk and we would just fall, right? We saw this happen. We saw like we could monitor shares available to borrow and it would be reflected very clearly. Like we'd see, 300,000 or 400,000 shares right before open come off the table. And then sure enough, when we opened, the price would shoot down, something like that. That happened a lot over here as well. All throughout this trend, institutions had to rely on direct shorting, so borrowing shares of GameStop directly and then using them in order to adjust the price to kind of transpose the price downward, like we talked about last week. So that strangely stopped in this sequence, right? So we got to this kind of double top, and right around here, right around January 6th, right around that top prior to the January 9th holiday, we saw shares get down to about 50,000. So at one point overnight, they got down to only 50,000 shares directly available to borrow on GameStop per interactive brokers. Then all of a sudden, heading into the 6th, 7th of January, 8th, they started to go back up. In fact, can we see this? I wonder if I can point this out. If we go back and look at historicals, I might have to click 100,000 times in order to see it. Can we like scroll here? We can't scroll here. I could download it. It's going to be a little ridiculous if I do that, though. Yeah, so I won't do that. But in any case, right, got very low, and then yeah, all of a sudden around the 6th, 7th, 8th, like it started to go back up again, inexplicably. So, went back up, into the 200,000, and then all of a sudden it shot up to 900,000, and then it shot up to 1 point something million, like right around here. And then right around the time that we tanked on January 14th, it got up to over 2 million again. And then on the other side, this was what was so bizarre. On the other side of the tanking, it went up, right? So the price fell off a cliff in a way that can only be through this kind of price transposition. Like this is a glaring price transposition. Different than here, right? Here we saw shares to borrow, right before Thanksgiving, 2.3 million. By the time we got into this bit here on like December 3rd, 4th, shares to borrow had gotten down to like 1 million. 1 million, 1.1. They were kind of going back between like 800,000 and 1.1 kind of overnight on those days. So it was very obvious. It was very obvious where the shares were coming from, how they were being used. It was very exposed the way that the short position had been entered. Here we have the same exact movement, the same type of movement, how it looked playing out over multiple days, or I guess multiple candles, I should say. But the shares to borrow went up, which was baffling. Stayed basically throughout this whole period. It would kind of go back and forth between like 3.1 million and 2.7. Maybe some days it would be 2.7 at the highest, and then kind of go down to like 2.4, 2.5, but then just kind of come back up. So how, right? Like, where are all the shares coming from, right? So what may be the case, right, is there were somehow in this region a very large amount of synthetic shares were created via ETF creation orders, right? Or something like the ETF creation orders would have been back in here. Shares were acquired for the ETFs. Then redemption orders took place, like FTDs on GameStop itself maybe were satisfied, or on like XRT or something. And then shares taken from some of those redemption orders on those creation orders were then used to short the stock around OPEX. So under those conditions, right? So let's say whoever wants to have those synthetic shares, right? So they'll go to the authorized participant. They'll say, "Hey, I want however many orders, however many units of, let's say, XRT," and they'll go, "Okay, great." The authorized participant will then put in the creation order. The creation order will come back, say, "Okay, here's 1 million units," like what we just saw, right? 1 million units just got created. Then there'll be a redemption order, and the redemption order means that the authorized participant then has to take those, the authorized participant with the creation order will then deliver the created ETF shares over to whoever requested them. But then a redemption order is the market maker or the broker dealer that requested the creation order from the authorized participant sends the ETF shares back and then gets the securities that are in that basket delivered to them. Okay. Then they can just go ahead and sell those, right? They can go dump those, I guess, on the tape or something like that. But the authorized participant then, right? Let's say the authorized participant doesn't want to actually acquire the shares. The authorized participant can FTD where those shares are coming from. So like the authorized participant can issue IOUs to the institution that had the redemption order and never actually, for a significant period of time, not actually buy the shares that go into the basket that get delivered in the redemption order. So the authorized participant hands fake shares over to an institution, and then like a broker dealer, and then the broker dealer can then just go ahead and can just sell those fake shares that way, right? And it doesn't count as naked shorting because it's all contained in the kind of like FTD pocket. It's all internalized in here. So Richard's been talking about this a lot. He's been very recently looking at the kind of current cycle in terms of, he's been looking at what, T+32 trading days. But basically what this suggests is that the primary vehicle for, well, you know, if we start reversing now amid seeing this, you know, this very large XRT creation order, 1 million units, and seeing, now we're seeing shares available to borrow dwindle, right? This suggests that, oh, okay, those shares out there that were available to borrow are now being borrowed in order to cover FTDs, right? They're now being borrowed from whatever broker dealers supposed like hold them and make them available for lending. Now they're being, I assume, borrowed by authorized participants to cover like ETF redemption FTDs, something like that, which were entered into way back here around January OPEX. So this whole like macro cycle, which means this was probably like a margin call extension from in here. And what I think this meant, right, because we were speculating about this last week, was these FTDs being delivered? Was that what this, it was these FTDs being cleared? What I think this probably was then was this was probably a margin call extension here. This was entered into specifically because this margin call, this probably Rex code 68 was probably happening, knew it was going to happen, needed to adjust the price down in order to make sure that this did not result in, you know, GameStop going into the 40s or something. And then, which meant that the swaps, like all of these swaps that need to be rolled in March, which we also talked about this past week on my Monday video, especially, all of these swaps, and of course next week we have the Bill Huang swaps coming up, that would prevent those from having to be rolled at like $35 or $40 or something like that, which would have been maybe a prohibitively expensive premium, like monthly premium rate on whoever is holding those. So it'll be interesting to see, but I guess this would suggest, depending on the number of FTDs that were internalized as a result of whatever creation orders occurred here, because where did those shares come from, right? How did we go from 50,000 to 3 million while the stock was being shorted? Where did those come from, right? And I think this is probably one of the more blatant cases we've seen of this like ETF limbo stuff going on. So if this is the case, pretty soon, I'm guessing, right, the buy volume has to come from somewhere, unless somehow this creation order that just came through on XRT, they're going to try to finagle some kind of overlap, right? So they sort of, I don't know, how would you put it? It's like, I don't know, you put your finger on something, like you're trying to tie a knot or something, and you got to like stick it in there, right? So you like put your finger on it to keep it in place while you go do something else with your other hand, and then you come back, and then you can kind of swap it with your other hand, right? You ever do that, right? You're trying to hold something down while you're tying a knot, you come back, you do something over here, you come back, oop, and then you put your finger back, so you can just keep it there, and you can kind of swap hands. Something like that, it maybe is what they're trying to do. So I don't know enough here to be able to say, oh yeah, like they're going to have to cover some FTDs now. But, you know, I've refrained. I'll tell you guys, I've refrained. Past week, I did not enter any short options positions. Premiums have been not good, right? Despite the fact we have IV going up, this kind of forcing the price down into the 23s, into the 24s. Premiums are not good. And even still, like looking at how the options market has reacted to this, I think I mentioned this on one of my videos earlier this week. 25 has not filled in as a call wall. We got really, really close to that today, but all of these weeks of pushing the price now, multiple weeks pushing the price under 25, and the options market is still not interested in making 25 into a call wall. 30 is still our call wall, despite the fact we have the price down this far. So it doesn't seem at large like the options market has been biting on, okay, we're gonna, let this is going down. We need to insert new short. Oh, it's obviously going down. Take a bunch of short options positions at 24 or 25 or something like that. Some people are doing it. Some traders are doing it, but it's by and large not what we've seen in the majority. Let's take a look at the comments for a little bit. Law indeed. Yeah. Chart Exchange is good though. The actual people that run Chart Exchange, whoever the guy is that runs Chart Exchange, is one of us. In terms of, pretty sure he's just like it's just like one guy, I think, that like runs that site. What's up, William? Great to see you, my man. I like your picture. Gives me a lot of like nostalgia of like playing space video games when I was a kid. Remember Star Wars Galaxies? I like Star Wars Galaxies. It was fun. Bikini shorting? I don't know what that is, but interesting tactic. New tactic. Guido is right, yeah. So XRT went on Reg Show in late December. That's right. I think it went on Reg Show, the threshold security list, like the 23rd. I want to say it was the 23rd, and it didn't come off until after the big shorting event on the 14th of January. Liquidity Fairy. Yeah. Well, okay. Here's why I'm interested in this. This is, so one of the tricks, right? One of the tricks here with GameStop and with understanding this stuff in terms of being able to model this kind of internally and being able to trade this effectively and understand what's happening and also manage your investment, right? So like part of, I did not necessarily come into this with the intent to like figure out a way to trade, like defensively trade and protect my investment, let alone like actually crazy profit off of doing this. But that's, what started to happen once I took a deeper look at this stuff. But a lot of what I was looking at and trying to understand was like, I want to understand what's happening so I can recognize what's authentic and what's not, right? I want to understand like what was going on back in 2021. Like, okay, is that type of stuff going to happen again? If we go up, is this just going to get, shorted to oblivion and we go back to like $40 or, $40, would it be $10 and then, something like that, right? Do I have to prep for that? Is it going to come back up after that? Like, I wanted to understand what exactly, like not only how this looked on the chart, but be able to have a model for what was driving this type of price action. And of course, then you try to do that, and then what you end up with is going down this black hole of what is happening behind the scenes here. But this can be very helpful, right? And understanding not only how they use these tools, because we have DD, we understand, yes, okay, we have a model of how creation and redemption works. We have a model for how the options volatility cycles work. We have a model for how, the whole Max Payne getup works. We have a model for how it fits into the broader market. Like, we have these models, but it's different to have a practicable model, like an actionable model for understanding how and why they use different configurations of these tricks in different market conditions and circumstances. That's the other thing. So I imagine a big reason why, and I think I talked about this maybe a month ago at one of the streams, a big reason I think why institutions were able to pull off what they did in 2022 and 2023 was because we went into a big bear market. 2021, for the most part, the price stayed buoyant into November. I think because bull market. In a bull market, it's harder to, as we've outlined, right? It's harder to use these tools in a way that allows for this kind of bearish price transposition, in part because you have the ETF vehicles working against shorting. So you run the risk of having your margin screwed up by messing around too much with the ETFs. Whereas you don't run that risk as much. You don't have that risk as much to your margin balance, I think, under bearish market conditions. So it's the value of looking at this stuff, I think, is being able to recognize, like, okay, what are the, like, what can we see if we look at the way the shares are being manipulated, if we know like swaps are coming up, if we look at the way IV is behaving, if we can see how options are behaving or something like this, and we can sort of put this together, can we kind of get an advanced warning of, oh, hey, one of these is coming up. They're gonna short the hell out of this thing in a few days. But even if it happens, it's okay, because it means they're trying to avoid something like a Rec 68 margin call deferral, messing up their whole scheme or something like that. Can we recognize that? How many days are we going to have to wait? And then you can adjust position, or you can enter into defensive trades, right? Because like a cover call is great in a bull market because you feel like $1 million because your shares are going up and they're just kind of controlling the price down at the end of the week, so it goes below the call wall. It goes below, and then whoa, go above, and then whoop, and then down, and then it goes back up again, and so your shares are appreciating, and you're making all this money on these highly inflated premiums. But when the price is going down, right, let's say your investment is depreciating in value, and so you can't sell covered calls fast enough or expensive enough to actually like offset the paper losses on the share position. So the covered call trades in a way end up being sort of on the one hand defensive, right? So they protect at least a portion of your investment. They lessen your paper loss by taking some profit out of it, essentially. But then you can also use that cash to set up for an incoming up move on the other side. But obviously the weak point in that kind of covered call defensive trade is, well, you can sell covered calls forever, but if the investment keeps going down, if the price keeps going down, then like there's no amount of covered calls that you can sell at a certain rate in order to make up for the fact that the underlying has gone down that much. Which, be that as it may, what you look for then is, all right, where's the stability point? How long do I have to wait? How long do I have to go into this defensive mode, or would it be better just to kind of exit and re-enter a part of the position? Would that be a better defensive strategy or something like that? Just kind of speculating here. But if we can understand how this works, and speak of the devil, somebody else who's trying to understand how this works. What's up, otherwise? Yeah, if we can understand how this works, if we can understand like the phases of this, and then recognize, not just understand this conceptually, but then recognize the different phases with our live indicators, right? To be able to say, aha, here we go. This is the end. When we see shares to borrow go down like this, when we see things like big ETF creation orders, when we see these two things kind of co-occur, we understand we're in a transition. We're transitioning between cycles, and that means X, right? That means this is going to be the result. So what is going to be the result? We have to find out. No worries, dog. What's up? Hey, not medical advice. Could you give me some medical advice? How would you treat a case of infinite liquidity? That's the question of the day. Bro, what? This seems vaguely Thailand related. Yeah, this is an interesting point. So I think yes. I don't know that it's I don't know what the level of priority is. So, this is interesting, right? And I try to understand what's happening with respect to um the political situation, right? From a how would you say it? Just like from a macro view, right? What do I think they're trying to do? And first off, let me preface this by saying, like, in the same way that what we're trying to do here with GameStop, what I'm trying to do, what Richard's trying to do, what a lot of others, right, what Otherwise Here is trying to do, what Ultimator is trying to do, what a lot of us are trying to do, and what I think has brought a lot of us together in this kind of GameStop saga has been the fact that we have this kind of world that's presented to us about how finance works and about how the market works and about how this ties into economics and this and that and what matters and what are the things to look at and what are the real catalysts. And what we've come to realize is that essentially what we're being presented is a show, is a performance to get as many people as possible not focusing on the actual game that's being played, right? So I think about this in terms of a game structure. There is a game that's being played, right? And you think, okay, well, game. What is a game, right? We live in series of hierarchated games. It's how we engage with the world. The reason that children play games is to develop this architecture, is to develop this brain and motivational architecture that allows them to engage in complex socialization and to accomplish things in the world, right? Society is built on all of these games being nested and built on top of one another. So a dual integration and hierarchization of games of varying degrees of complexity and scale. And so, but they all have a universal structure, and that universal structure is intelligible based on the fundamental template that, let's say, underlies the architecture of our nervous system and of our psychology. And it arises from our, I guess, cellular biology as well to a degree. So whatever is occurring, right, in politics, whatever we see on the surface, this is to say, there are a series of games that are being played behind the scenes, right? And whatever the true game is, it's not necessarily the one that's being presented to us in what we easily have access to. In the same way that when we look at CNBC, that's not that's not the real game. The real game is this stuff right now that we're talking about with GameStop. The real game is settlement. The real game is FTDs. The real game is, the backroom deals between, SEC people and, promising them, can you buy off this SEC regulator with a job in the finance industry in 5 years and promise them, a 7-figure salary. Like those are some of the real moves of the game, not necessarily the flashing lights and candles and stuff that we get shown to us on our trading platforms. So in the same way with politics, right, or what we see at that scale, you know, what are the games and what is the macro game necessarily that's being played? So in terms of what I think with Trump and Elon with respect to what's going on with the SEC and the markets and stuff, do I think, number one, that they would be interested in doing something about short selling and addressing things with the SEC? I would say yes, but I would say that issue is one issue in their broader goals. I'm not exactly sure. Like, I guess I'm sort of less clear on what Trump's sort of long-term goals are, as far as, like, is it may just be something as straightforward as he wants to be the best president that there's been. He wants, and his way to do that is to make America the most prosperous and strongest country he can imagine. In the way that he's used to doing that, I guess, with business and business networks and investment and things like that. I'm not sure. I don't have, I think, as how would you say, as clear of a line on his psychology as possible. It may not be, right. Like I haven't heard him talk at length about goals that are more complex than that, and that's kind of, okay, fine. Let's see how that plays out. Elon's goals, I think, have another layer to them, and that I honestly think he is sincere about making human beings a multi-planet species. I sincerely think that is his true goal. He wants to put humans on Mars. He wants to terraform our solar system, and he wants to make human beings a multi-planet species. I think Bezos kind of has something to this, but he's doing this too, but kind of less overtly, with like his blue, what is it? Not blue ocean, blue something or other. But like, he's talked about like, it would be great if we could make human beings a trillion, if we could have a trillion person species, because a trillion person species means, we've got, in the species, we've got 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins and 1,000, people of that like. And it means, you see this idea in Dune. I love Dune. You guys that have followed me for a while, I love Dune. I love the recent Denis Villeneuve stuff. But like the Bene Gesserit, right? So part of the plan of the Bene Gesserit, although their methods are very interesting, right? The Bene Gesserit plan is to birth the Kwisatz Haderach. So the Kwisatz Haderach in Dune is right. So the Bene Gesserit are a priestess or an order of priestesses that cross bloodlines. So they use sexual selection in order to create transcendent organics, right? So they use eugenics. It's eugenic principles. By the way, eugenic just means good typing, from eu, meaning well in Greek, which is used as eudaimonia is having a spirit of wellness, the Greek word for happiness. Euphoria is having a spirit of well-bearing. So eugenikos is like well-typed, something well-grouped, something like that in Greek. So they use eugenic principles to try to elevate mankind, right? So in their world, the technological ascendancy has been banned. So it's like if you imagine our world now, where what we're pursuing and what we have been pursuing is primarily technological ascendancy. We are attempting to use machines to outsource our development. So like our development as a species in the modern world, the West is an externalization of our advancement. It is putting our attention, our increases in intelligence and capability, in energy consumption, in movement, all of this stuff, right? It's all outside of us. It doesn't have to do inside of our body. And in the Dune world, humanity messes up because they create an AI that's too powerful and it almost eradicates the human race. So they create, first off, they have to lead a jihad against the machines, basically like Terminator, right? Except they overcome the machines, right? So it's not dystopian like Terminator where the humans fail, essentially. And they have to like invent time travel to try to undo everything because they screw it up so bad. No, in Dune, the humans succeed and they defeat the machines. They defeat the machine intelligences. And they develop a new religion, or not really a new religion, but they advance, right? They have a reformation on some of older world religions, and they one of the tenets that they come up with is thou shalt create no machine in the image of a man. So they basically ban technological ascendancy and say, but what they leave open is they leave open biotech ascendancy, biological ascendancy, which is how human beings have ascended in the past, right? How did we get to this point that we have these, whatever this is, like strapped to our bodies? Like, how did we rise up and develop this particular package we've got going on inside our skin? Sexual selection, right? Environmental and sexual selection. So the Bene Gesserit attempt to do this consciously, okay? Like directly consciously by planning it, by using like the rational conscious mind to do this, and then they pair people and try to upbreed them. And their plan is to create a Kwisatz Haderach, which is an individual, a mind capable of breaching space and time. So they want to attempt to elevate a human being to the level of consciousness and mental capability that it's essentially, this human being is beyond any and all human beings that have ever lived in terms of what this human being is capable of. So they're trying to advance, and then they can breed this human being and then advance humans to a new ascended race of beings of some sort, right? That's their plan. So you know, the way Bezos talks about this, yeah, we have 1,000 Mozarts, right? Well, okay, but if you, for every 1,000 Mozarts you'll have one like Kwisatz Haderach Mozart that like can control people with the quality, like unlike any musical genius that's ever been born, right? And Mozart is that type of person. You know, there are other very impressive musicians out there, like, you know, Bach as a composer for his whole life, or Haydn as a composer for his whole life. Probably Bach is the other like kind of genius, like scary genius level composer. Handel is very good, right? Haydn only kind of later in life. But you know, Mozart, to have his ability, right? This is a guy who had like a photograph, like if you could imagine, right? A photographic music memory. So one of the most coveted pieces of music in all of the early modern world was the Gregorio Allegri's Miserere Mei. So this piece of music was only ever played, it was only allowed to be played in the Sistine Chapel in Rome. And so they like, some people wanted to play it elsewhere, and they're like, we have to figure out what to do. So they took Mozart when he was like 8, and then they were just like, they sat him in there, right? They put him in there and they said, okay, just listen to them play this. And so he listened to the whole piece, and then they took him out and they were just like, did you hear it well enough? And he was like, yeah, it sounded good. And they're like, okay. And then they gave him pieces of music and they're like, write it down. And then he just went, okay. And then he just wrote the whole thing out, what every single part did, like all of the everything. Here it is. And it was just a perfect copy of the entire piece after having listened to it once. So like, that's that level of guy. Now imagine what that would be if you had 1,000 of those guys also, you know, reproduce, and then you picked the 0.1%, right? So Mozart is probably somebody like a 0.1% of the 0.1%. 1 in 1,000 Mozarts, for every 1,000 Mozarts you had, you get a 0.1 on top of that. So it'd be the 0.1 of the 0.1 of the 0.1 in terms of musical genius, right? Okay. So Bezos has that kind of thing in mind, but I really think like what Musk's vision is seriously, human beings must be able to leave Earth. Human beings must be able to do new world exploration, new frontiers, new shores, whatever, because we've always done that. And the two competing dreams right now are take the world and make it into one global civilization where everybody is united in one language and one culture and all of that, which is the Tower of Babel, right? That's the story of the Tower of Babel in the book of Genesis, Genesis 11. Genesis 11, that is what they tried to do, right? So the vision of the people of Babel which is probably Babylon at some point. But the vision of the people of the Tower of Babel is to unite the whole world under one language. Or I should say, what the story says is the people are united in one language and one culture. And at that point, they decide that they will build a tower that reaches into the heavens so that they may be the equals of God. And disaster ensues. So there's that vision. And then the vision is something like the alternative vision is the vision of Abraham, which you get coming next in the book of Genesis, which is you receive the call from God, the call to adventure, and you go out, you leave everything that you know behind, you go out into the wilderness, you brave dangers, and you build a great nation somewhere else where none of your people have ever trod before. So, you know, that dream in essence is perhaps that's the real American dream. Not everybody gets a house. But I think Elon realizes that to a degree, and he understands that there are no more, if you do not give human beings a frontier, their alternative is to do things like technological ascendancy, and they just explore things in abstraction to unlimited degrees, or they try to build one world, one civilization, one language, one culture, globalization. So I think genuinely that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to do like, you know, Mars America, like the Federation of Mars. I don't know. You know, he's trying to do something like that. So in terms of what he's pursuing with Doge, what he's pursuing with, you know, helping out Trump's agenda, which I think Trump's vision is very much more of a historical vision, like face on Mount Rushmore, make America, like make it more efficient, like, you know, get rid of parasitism in our institutions, you know, like what's going on with Wall Street. So that, I think that's a part of both of their visions, but it's not, I think it's maybe a later stage, or a, you know, they have to make sure that they can get like the kind of geopolitical status quo established. And if they have that, if that's stabilized, then they can go after the financial stuff, and they can go after Wall Street, and they can go after short selling, which, you know, like Korea and China did that last year. They made all short selling illegal, and, you know, BABA like doubled in price. So I think they might do something like that. And I think that is going to prove important long term to certainly, well, to both Trump and Elon's vision. So for Elon's vision, one of the reasons why he dislikes short selling is actually part and parcel to why he dislikes institutional finance in general, or he likes our current configuration of institutional finance. I've seen multiple interviews with him complaining about basically what happens with, you know, intellectual and creative talent in not just the United States but the world. In that our institutions like Harvard, like Yale, like Stanford, like all these places, right? These institutes of, or MIT too, yeah, like these places that were founded, well, not founded, but that reached this kind of golden age in the early 20th century, the mid 20th century, as just these institutions of innovation, of discovery, of science, that sort of thing. And in large part, they've turned into just kind of feeders into institutional finance, right? They've sort of morphed back into the aristocratic pipelines, the American aristocratic pipelines that they were maybe in the 19th, the 18th, and the 19th centuries. Although 18th century, they were kind of more Bible institutes, but 19th century, definitely they had kind of become boys club kind of aristocratic pipelines. 20th century, mid 20th century ended up being magical because they went the way of science and innovation and stuff. And so the aristocratic function kind of became a bit more secondary and sub-infeudated to that. But in a very large component, the kind of aristocratic pipeline thing has roared back. Even though it was always there, kind of under the surface. Like I met people like that at Yale. not to talk shit or anything, but that's always been there. But I think Elon's primary Elon is unhappy with the degree to which potentially very talented, creative, and innovative individuals, genius level talent. Like there's just a story the other day about a kid going to Harvard, right? 17 years old, created like an AI bionic arm integration. At 17, dude patented this thing. And then he got to Harvard, and now he's going to do an internship and go work for D.E. Shaw as a quant. So he's going to take all of this massive, potentially innovative talent, and he's going to go do quantitative analysis for institutional finance. Why? Because nobody else will pay him what institutional finance can pay him, because institutional finance can cheat, right? Right. So I think Elon's vision in part is challenged by that dimension, and part of being able to do things like attack short selling, get things right with the SEC, properly regulate, right? So remove unnecessary regulations. But like, for example, right, if you just make short selling illegal, you can get rid of all of Reg Show. You don't need Reg Show. Like that's, in essence, that's deregulation, because you don't need to do any of that stuff. If short selling blanket is illegal and you can't do it, then you don't need an 800-page manual regulating it, because it's illegal. You just need one law. You can't do it. Done. You don't need all this settlement stuff either. Oh, when you borrow this and this, it's like, nope, instant settlement. You do it immediately. If it's not settled by the next day, you are in breach of federal regulations. You are now banned from trading activities for however many days, 30 days, 60 days. Like what happens with retail, right? How many traders, there's the pattern day trade rule, right? You don't have 25K in your account and you execute a day trade without 25K in your account. Once you've been flagged as a pattern day trader, you're frozen from making trades. You cannot make them. You cannot initiate a trade to open. Once you do that, you are not allowed to do it. But institutions can FTD for 40 days or 20 weeks or whatever it is, and somehow that's okay. So I do think they will address that, right? I do think they will address that, but the question is when and if they will be able to get to that, because I do see it clearly. Yeah, I see it clearly as both of their in both of their visions as I understand them. Yeah. And to that side bit there, Maxie, about Kenny. Yeah, Kenny supported some Republicans, right? So it's important to remember, and this is another thing, right? Not all the Republicans are necessarily on Trump and Elon's side. Right? Trump and Elon are both not Republican, right? They have no allegiance to the Republican Party in essence of what they've been able to forge recently. Both Elon and Trump were Democrats until alienated by the Democratic Party. Same thing with essentially a lot of Trump's cabinet right now, like Tulsi, right? Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat until alienated. Kennedy, very recently, Democrat until alienated. I'm sure you can find some others in there, but plenty of Republicans are, whatever you want to call it, institutional party loyalists, playing the political game, participating in political theater. And it just so happens that Trump and Elon right now are acting in ways that put their party in the driving seat, so they're okay with that. But as soon as any of that actually like compromises their interests, they might stand up and work behind the scenes to complicate that. Not saying necessarily anything blanket, bad about Republicans or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, there are plenty of institutional folks in there, I think, on the Republican Party that are not necessarily on Trump and Elon's side. And Kenny did donate to some of them, interestingly. Ken Griffin did donate to some Republicans. Notably, he did not donate to Trump's campaign. He did not donate to Trump during his run-up. Once he won, this was very interesting. Once Trump won, he donated $1 million toward his inauguration. Once he won. So interesting to keep in mind. Let's go back to the. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. They do be having lots of goals. They are the goals folk. They are the goals folk. Yeah, Simple Rick likes Simple Rick likes this line. It's gonna be huge. Nobody's been able to YOLO at $16. I told them, I said to everybody, one day you're gonna see GME at $16, but the price, it's not real. It's a fake price. That's what I'm saying. It's a fake price. But I said, hey, if you see $16, I was telling them it's a fake price. You put all your money in that. You'd be a millionaire. We'd be the richest country in the world. And think about this, if the entire country of the United States put all their money into GME at $16, we'd be the richest country in the world. That's what I was saying to him. Yeah, what? Hey, FINRA, here's $30 million. Could you stop investigating us? That's how that's supposed to work, right? Impressions are fun. It's like when I played improv games at theater camp as a child. The greatest impression, that's what I said. It's the greatest one. Nobody does a better Trump impression than I do. Shane Gillis is really good though. I think Shane Gillis Trump impression is probably the best one. Shane Gillis is good. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. One of the better bits. Yeah. What else did I want to look at? I wanted to spend a little time too looking at the kind of macro situation here. I mean, we'll have to watch with GameStop. We'll have to watch, like, do we kind of move back to the. I still could see us, right, in kind of these intervening weeks, kind of heading into earnings here. If we make this a little bigger. Yeah. I did stand up for a year too. That was fun. Stand up's very fun. Cause like it's fun because you have to get it, like, you have to get it right. If you're not funny, you're not. And like that's it. If you're not funny, you're not. But if you are funny, everyone loves you. And it's like, it's a really great. Actually, that's part of the reason why I think it's very appealing to men in that sense, right? Why is it mostly men who do stand-up comedy? People say, oh, it's because women aren't funny. It's like, well, maybe women can be funny, but I think it's because men actually really, really like only being rewarded for the results that they bring, right? It's like, when you do stand-up comedy, you cannot. There is literally no way around There's no way around the success. It's like trading, right? There's no way around it. You cannot, you're either successful because you did the right planning, you analyzed the situation, you rehearsed whatever you're going to do, you stuck to your decision, you executed correctly, you took the right risk, you balanced it, and then you pulled it off in front of the right audience. And then you were immediately rewarded for being able to do that correctly. And so it's great when you can do that for 5 minutes. It's even cooler when you can do that for 10 minutes. It's even cooler when you can do that for 30 minutes. I never got up to doing anything like an hour or an hour and a half set, but I could just imagine like being one of those guys who are just like awesome, like what's his face? Yeah, like any really good stand-up comedian. Be able to pull off an hour and a half. It's like, and you just get like the audience just like every 20 seconds or something is just amazing, amazing, amazing. You get that hit. So it's pretty cool. So in terms of GameStop, if we look over at our 4-hour chart, like I could see us moving back like into earnings, maybe moving up here. Max Payne hasn't moved at all. Maybe we just get mega shorted. I'm not sure. But, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do. I remember. I want to take a look at this post from somebody over on GME here. This one. Wickoff, D's nuts. So we've talked in the past. We've talked in the past on what's this? We've talked a bit about Wickoff accumulation and distribution, what these types of cycles look like. And I mentioned that what's particularly notable about GameStop on these bigger down movements is that our volume recently in no way has aligned with what we've seen on our up movements. Our up movements are, 3 and 4 times the shares traded as we move up, but then, cut down dramatically as we move down. And that's not necessarily as visible when we move up close, right? When we get to sort of the hour or the day-to-day, that's maybe not as visible, although it is notable to some extent. But when we kind of zoom out to the, let's say, the daily or the weekly charts, we can see that, well, hey, at this macro level, it looks like this is kind of just a correction phase within a continued upcycle. And, looking at, say, our momentum indicators over on GameStop, that is what's suggested as well. We still have a lot of deeper upward momentum. And this user in particular over on the GME subreddit, not Superstonk, pointed this out, right? We actually very conspicuously have our pattern look like the end of this Wickoff, let's say, mini distribution phase, right? This sell-off. So these different abbreviations, have a look at this. In fact, I'll put this in the chat if you guys want to take a look in detail on your own. Right. So it's something like, yeah, I would say, indeed, this was posted before, right before the beginning of our trading yesterday. And what we got intraday was this kind of secondary test of the lowest level of support, or LPS here, right? So looks like maybe last point of support, last pullback between sustained uptrend. Well, I guess no. Secondary test maybe here, or spring. Probably spring. So yeah, we got pretty close if this plays out. And who knows if this is authentic or this is something like right, let's take a look here. You know, if this is just some beep boop boops doing beep boop boop stuff. But yeah, we got this 2350, just above that, 2350 something here, right? 1, 2, 3. Whoops. 1, 2, 3. And let's go back here. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, maybe we see this, huh? Is this something, you know, drawn up by the beep boop boops? Hmm? Has this been just so internalized? The beep boop boops go ahead and set this up, regardless of, right? Because we've talked about this. It doesn't actually look like anybody's actually trading this. This just looks like ETFs and options market makers mostly trading the stock. Especially when we see numbers like 3.2 million shares on the day. It's like, that's nobody's buying or selling this. And that's what we've seen too, even on these deeper moves down. It's like, it doesn't cause, it's not like it trips limit sells or anything like that, or stop losses. Like nobody really looks like they're exiting as we go on these moves. It's just like, it's highly correlated with just whatever ETFs are doing. So yeah, this is certainly interesting to point out, and does look really close to this, right? Does look really close with the kind of double top here, the kind of double top, the secondary test, right? This type of stuff. We have the spring. Maybe that's the spring. Then this would be our next test down here, which we got slightly above the spring. So what? We move up, last point of support, and then start to move up again, maybe to 27, 28 before earnings. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. As far as our broader market, too, which I think, and this is what I was talking about some of my videos this week, I think we might be seeing, maybe we have another week of pain, something like that, over in SPY. But I think we might see a brief reprieve. So I don't think it'd come back all the way up. Maybe up to the, yeah, maybe we get a move back to the 100 or the 50 here. But this is our 200 day. We breached the 200 day, but then came right back underneath it here. So in terms of SPY, did we close above it? Yeah, I think we closed above it here. Yeah, we did. Yeah, here we go, close. So we've got these three moving averages all kind of clustering up here. So I wouldn't be surprised at this point if what we got actually going into March OPEX at this point is a little bounce, actually. A little bounce action right back, maybe up to the 590 kind of area, like 590-ish. Before then we resume our kind of trek downward, probably to like, yeah, deeper down. And that would track with, yeah, right. So we did. Maybe we get one more shot there, but we did come all the way down here and then close pretty high relative to that dip. Almost, yeah. We did hit 565, right? This candle. Yeah, we did. We did hit 565, right? I was talking about that earlier this week, right? We have this top support point over here was 565, and 565 was just north of the 50-week moving average, and what is our 200-day moving average. So I think we might get a decent bounce in SPY at this point before we resume the path down south. And I do think we will resume the path down south. we will continue to move down, but maybe not quite as quickly. Yeah, we have to wait, I guess. Oh no, we see it there. Yeah, that deeper 55 PMO is only very slowly moving down, but it still is by 0.01 points. It looks per week. So I think that could create an opportunity for a bit of a recovery into maybe March OPEX. Yeah, if this is having this cycle time up, I think the context is there. Maybe we kind of get a second test or something Monday to 565, and then maybe traders go, oh, okay, we kind of maxed out. We maxed out the kind of March OPEX down move for right now. They pick it back up. Maybe they give some false security, a false sense of security, and then early next week or later into next week into March OPEX, they go, oh no, the Bank of Japan raised the rate. Who could have seen this coming? And then they tank it again. Could see that. So interesting question here from Otherwise. Otherwise says, hey Mojo, hey, that's me. I'm going to make an in-depth post on X about this over the weekend, but there's a potential boofing on Playboy this week. Also, lots of catalysts going on. What's your take on the chart? Don't want to derail a GME discussion, just if you have time later. Let's take a look. Let's take a look, team. Let's take a peek. That's mostly, I got out most of what I wanted to say about GameStop. So let's go ahead and take a look at Playboy. I don't know much about them. What's going on? What have they been doing recently? Oh. Well, looks like they've been shorted. Kind of looks like AMC. What happened here? What? What is this? What happened on the 28th of October? Besides it being National Cat Day the next day. Let's go to the daily. Oh, does this have a connection to GameStop? It was on the 31st officially. Did they have like a dope earnings or something? What happened here? That's what we do, dog. Yo, I just get online with my boys and we just look at Playboy together. That's what we do. 31st, they made a big deal. What was the deal? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd have to like take a deeper look, I guess, at the chart to be able to track that. Like, where would we track? Like, do you know what like ETFs it's been in? Because like that's how they do that stuff for extended periods of time. Or like, do you know the FTD data? Does it have like a ton of open FTDs that just nobody cares about? So like, here's Playboy FTDs. Wait, where are the FTDs? Shorts. Oh, there are a lot, huh? Oh, are they lying about these though? Can we really like? Here's the other thing. Can we even trust this anymore? Like with the dashes, did they even publish anything on 1031? 51K. That doesn't even. Doesn't seem like a lot. And they're saying they're all just instantly closed. Man, see, I don't even know. I don't feel like. Yeah, FTD data. Like after whoever sent in the GME, like Freedom of Information Act requests, just said like, no, you can't have it because it would cause foreseeable harm to allow you to know what the fails were. Like failure, like foreseeable harm to whom is the question. But yeah, I'll have to take a look. Well, I'm interested to read your DD. I'm interested to read your DD. We'll take a peek. Ooh, is Playboy an XRT? Ooh, spicy. Ooh, very spice. Very spice. Did not know. Libertine. Way to go, dog. Very cool. What do they even do now? Like, what does Playboy do? That's it's like that clip, right, where the guy's like, "Man, uh, Upstart, they're like, I'm thinking this is a great play, blah blah blah. Like it's all this. Looking at this, like the company's this, they're doing this." And then the guy comes, the like host goes, "What does Upstart do?" And the guy who's like, pumping this on CNBC just says, I'm sorry, excuse me, I didn't quite catch that. What does Upstart do? Yeah, I just I don't I don't yeah. Would you rephrase the question? And he's just like, he's talking about Upstart, like it's pumping, 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 and then immediately, like after he logs off, it just gets rugged. What does Playboy do? I don't know what this is. Yeah. Notice that Rory Kinninger's stock charts appear to include a benchmark of GME SPX. So may signal something, but don't understand how to interpret the data. This is over on Rory Kinninger. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's above PMO, below on balance volume. So I think this is like GameStop's. This wouldn't be a year to. Is this a year to date performance versus SPX? I think it's. But over what time frame? This is a 100 moving average. So is GME like beating SPX by 7.7? Not on the year, it's not. But since the reference value, interesting that it was still below it here. Then went way above and still somehow above. So It must be like versus. It's like GME. It's somehow weighted. I'll have to look this up. This is a good question, actually. So maybe GME still outperforming SPX in some sense. Not sure. Anybody have any insights on this? Yeah, I'll ask Richard maybe. I'll see if Richard knows. He's great because he's always thought about something that somebody else hadn't even looked at. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we'll bring stream to a close for there today. But great questions. I think yeah, I think we'll have to. This week is okay. I would say my hypothesis is that coming out of this cycle, it means that we start moving to the upside. I think we're going to get this kind of recontextual framing back to the upside. In SPY, which would be a nice, a slightly better environment for some of that recovery. Yeah, that's maybe. Hopefully, that's not just wishful thinking. But what? Yeah, what I'm reading in the data. So we'll have to see. We'll see you guys definitely on. Am I gonna have time for a video? I might not have time for a video on Monday because I have to catch my flight to Korea in order to get back to the US. So we'll see how that shakes out. But definitely have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you, Maxie. Thank you, Ryan. Cheers, Libertine. Cheers, not medical advice. Cheers, otherwise. Looking forward to your Playboy DD. In a manner of speaking. Cheers, my friend. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Elmano. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.